Hello to all, I am Vishnu. Today I am going to talk about epilepsy and seizures. So you can take it as a pharmacological perspective also, and you can take it as a therapeutics perspective. But I think today I'll be focusing on therapeutics more. Pharmacology I'll be talking in detail maybe later. So basically, what happens is, what I have very clearly observed is many people get confused between convulsions, seizures, and epilepsies. And many people actually think that all these three terms are the same. So we need to understand that first. Seizure is a single episode. Epilepsy is a series of seizure episodes. And convulsion is the involuntary contraction of the voluntary muscles. So before we go into that, let's understand how a seizure develops. So basically you need to understand that our brain consists of 100 billion neurons. 100 billion. And each neuron is connected to one another by a synapse. The synapse serves as the transporting medium by which information is transmitted from one neuron to the other. And that is how the entire brain neurochemistry works. So basically there are two types of neurotransmitters. One is called excitatory neurotransmitter and the other is called inhibitory neurotransmitter. So excitatory, you understood very well, they activate the brain activity. So we have aspartate, we have glutamate, etc., etc. And then we have inhibitory neurotransmitter which reduce the brain activity. So for example, we have GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, and that is why benzodiazepines like clonazepam, diazepam, alprazolam and all those things, what they do is they increase GABA activity so that CNS depression occurs. That is why they are used as sedatives and all this kind of things. If there is an imbalance between excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitters, in which excitatory neurotransmitter means activity elevates and inhibitory neurotransmitter activity reduces, in that condition, a seizure can develop. Okay. Now, this imbalance can occur due to many reasons. So, maybe if you are taking a particular medicine which has CNS stimulatory activity, then it can cause like that. Or maybe if you had suffered from some kind of brain trauma, so that can also trigger seizures. Or maybe you are suffering from some kind of meningitis, or maybe if you are suffering from some kind of brain infection, so that can also maybe indirectly lead to this. So there are a lot of etiologies for seizures. There are a lot of risk factors also, and obviously we know the most famous risk factor is family history. So if your first degree relatives, if they have, like if your parents have this, then definitely your chance of developing it will also be very high. So what happens in seizure is that, as I said, one neuron is connected to the other by a synaptic cleft or synapse, whatever it is, and the information is transmitted like that, okay? Via depolarization, whatever it is, the information is transmitted. So what happens is, if excitatory neurotransmitter activity is elevated, then lot of neurons get excited at the same time. Usually the excitation and de-excitation of neurons occur in a very sophisticated manner. It occurs in a series, right? That is why to balance that we have neurotransmitters. But if the activity of inhibitory neurotransmitters is very low, and if the activity of excitatory neurotransmitters is high, then a large number of neurons will fire action potential at the same time. In that condition, seizures can develop. Now we have different types of seizures. So basically, broadly, they are classified into two. One is called focal seizures and the other is called generalized seizures. Focal seizures means our brain is classified into two cerebral hemispheres. So if the seizure is occurring in a particular part of the cerebral hemisphere, then it is called focal seizures. And generalized seizures are much more dangerous because that means it is generalized. That means it can happen on either cerebral hemisphere. So In that condition, the treatment strategy is also very complex and it involves a large number of medications as well. Anyways, concerning its pharmacology and all those things, I'll talk in a later video. Now let's come to the most important part, and that is the difference between epilepsy, seizure and convulsion. Now, seizure, as I said, seizure, if you are saying in simple terms, it is a massive brain activity, or maybe it is a neurological disorder in which there is massive firing of action potential by neurons at the same time. Okay, massive firing of action potential by the neurons at a spontaneous time or at the same time. So that is a single episode. Seizure is always a single episode. When there are 2 or more episodes of seizures, then it is considered to be epilepsy. So epilepsy is actually seizure, but seizure is not epilepsy. Please understand that. Epilepsies will involve seizures, but it is not necessary that seizures will involve epilepsy, because you can have a single episode and with that, it may terminate. It may not progress into multiple episodes. So epilepsy, you have understood that it is a series of seizure episodes. Then we come to the third point, that is convulsion. So we have 2 types of muscles in our body. One is called voluntary muscles and the other is called involuntary muscles. Voluntary muscles means which is in our control. Like I can control my hand muscles, my arm muscles, to some extent my neck muscles, maybe the muscles of the eye as I move my, sight, your leg muscles. And then we have involuntary muscles which are not in your control. Like for example, the heart muscles. You can't control your heart muscles. You can't control your respiratory muscles, right? So those are controlled by the medulla oblongata. So basically, if I am moving my hand like this, if I am moving my neck or if I am moving my legs, it is under my control. But in convulsion, what happens? All these movements occur on their own without my control. And that is why in simple words, we can say convulsions as involuntary contraction of voluntary muscles. So that is what happens in convulsions. So let's make it very simple. The difference between seizures, epilepsy and convulsion. Seizure is a single episode in which there is massive firing of action potential by the neurons, by a large number of neurons at the same time. Epilepsy is a series of 2 or more seizure episodes, and convulsion means involuntary contraction of voluntary muscles. So this is what epilepsy, seizure and convulsion is all about. Now when we come to the pharmacotherapy, I'll just tell in very short terms. The major mechanism of action of the medications is to reduce CNS activity, because seizure means it is CNS excitation. So we focus on CNS inhibition, and that is why most of the medications that are used for seizure usually cause sedation as a side effect, because when CNS inhibition occurs, that usually causes sedation. But that varies from medicine to medicine, which I'll talk about in future videos. So I hope you have got an idea about epilepsy, seizure and convulsions, the normal basic neurophysiology. I hope this video has been informative for you. Your support is definitely very, very important in my future ventures as well. So thanks a lot for listening. See you in the next video. Until then, it's bye.